Hello, my name is Todd Sheely, and I am the ODP Director for the state of Indiana. Joining me today is Adam Clayman. Adam is our 2005 to 2007 Girls ODP Director. He is also an assistant coach at Indiana State. First off, in Indiana, we do a year-long evaluation that for our youngest age, our elementary and middle school age players, we start evaluating those players in August or September, depending on when our calendar starts. We evaluate for the entire year until July. In the middle of July or towards the end of July, all of our players will receive an evaluation from TeamGenius. All of our players are scored using a 6-point rubric. This year, I chose to go with a 6-point rubric as opposed to a 5 because I found many coaches just settled on the 3. This forces coaches to go either to a 3, which would be low middle, or a 4, which would be above middle. As I alluded to before, our elementary and middle start their training in August and September. Our high school age players participate in their high school seasons until the end of October. So their evaluations start at the end of October, early November. And again, all of our players, which this year will be around 525, 530 players, will receive an evaluation from Indiana ODP. We leave this evaluation open for the entire year. And Adam and I are going to talk about how he does his. But for example, a coach could evaluate a player on responsibility in training on October 24th and put in a comment that says, player A, on October 24th, I really liked when an injury happened and you pulled the team aside and you made sure they were still focused on the task at hand, period. I like the coach having the ability to go in and add those comments throughout the year instead of waiting until July, because I feel as a parent and a player, knowing that the coach has been paying attention to me year round means more than just one evaluation at the end. So while it is just one evaluation, my expectation is that coaches are evaluating their players throughout the ODP season, because a player might have a 2.0 in August, but by the time April or May, maybe they're a 2.5 or a 3.0. And so by doing this year round, it gives coaches more flexibility. Also, in some of our age groups, there's 70 to 100 players. So asking a coach to do all of those evaluations from July 1 to July 15th would be difficult. So I think it's good for them to be able to wait and do this year round. In addition, one of the things we do in Indiana is we use the key qualities of a U.S. soccer player. I have a goalkeeper coach who has a separate rubric that he uses, and he evaluates all the goalkeepers specifically. The field player coach can obviously offer comments and rankings as well, so they'll work together. When it comes to field players, again, we utilize the key qualities of a U.S. soccer player, and we have identified 6 of them that we want all of our players to be evaluated on throughout the year. Coach, can you give me any feedback on what you think about the 6-point rubric, what you think about evaluating the players using TeamGenius, but also just the importance you feel that evaluation offers a player?
Yeah, I think what's good about the 6 qualities is it addresses both, their abilities as a player, as well as the characteristics that they have as a person. So much in the game of soccer is about the response. When you talk about like what's the initiative, how is your focus, what's your responsibility. There's a lot of things that we talk about, especially at the within the group. What's the group's attitude, what's their energy, what's the effort of the player. So those are some of the qualities that are brought into it, and we got to coach them in that way, as well as trying to grow them, tactically in terms of what's their awareness, what's decision making they have on the ball, and put them in situations that hopefully allow them to grow and put them in an environment where they can fail safely and learn from their mistakes. And so the ability to kind of evaluate each athlete on a high school level, kind of a 9-month basis, it allows to make notes in the program throughout each training session throughout the year from a month-to-month basis, as well as events that they participate in. And so being able to jot some notes in there, and they can reference back to something that they may not remember that they did a December training session or at a team event in January. It does provide some specificity to the time that we spent together. And so I think there's a value in that. And yeah.
So Coach, last year we did a December evaluation and then we did a July evaluation. Do you feel by doing the one more year-long evaluation, was that easier for you, better for you than doing the December and July evaluation? Did you have more time? Did you feel like you were able to assess the player better? Any comments regarding that?
I think the ability to have it open and go in there after any training session, there'll be many weekends where we have 2 to 4 training sessions, and the ability in between sessions or later that evening to go back in and reflect on the influence the player had on the day is really beneficial. And it's not, waiting until May 1st or June 1st. And, how was player A, back in November? How were they at the December training session? And so obviously being around some of these girls for the better part of 3 years, I've been able to see their growth, but to actually be able to make notes and take time throughout the year, I think has provided the ability to see their growth, from October to June, which, they're, as a player, everyone kind of runs their own race. And so for them to kind of be able to reflect on how they've grown over the last 9 months, what have been some of their improvements, and where are some of their areas of growth, I think will be useful for them when they receive this, on the back end of summer.
Something else in Indiana that we do is I actually make hard copies or have recreated the rubric that we actually use through TeamGenius to provide my coaches for tryouts. And so the coaches are evaluating the tryout players using the same rubric that they will use to eventually evaluate the players for their time in Indiana ODP for that seasonal year. Adam, do you think that is useful? One, during tryouts, and two, do you think it's useful to have the same rubric when evaluating all players other than goalkeepers, talking about field players here? Instead of saying, well, I like that she can do this or he can do that, I think we're giving more specifics when we're using those categories. What do you think about both the tryout and the actual rubric that we use?
Yeah, I think if you're going to compare player A to player B, they should be evaluated on the same metric scale. So being able to, pull information and share with a tryout player, hey, this is the same way that we're evaluating the other 35 players in this age group. This is where we see you on the scale. These are your strengths. These are your areas of growth. I think now all of a sudden we're having the same conversations, and it's universal, and it's not evaluating 2 different athletes in 2 different metrics. So being able to marry those together, I think has a big impact, and it provides valuable feedback for that tryout player in terms of, hey, over the next months, these are areas of growth that we think we should come back and look to get in the pool, or you do these at a level that is perhaps greater than some players in the pool, and we'd like to welcome you into it.
So Coach, one of the nice things with TeamGenius is you can use the actual app on your phone, or you can sit down at a computer. I know some of the coaches like the talk to text feature when adding in comments. They can just be out on the field and pull it up right away. But some organizations may not want the phones out during the actual training session. So do you feel that it's a benefit for you to be able to sit down at the computer? Do you take hard notes, or are you somebody who, as soon as the session's over at lunch, you're going into the app and using it there?
Yeah, I'm really have a little bit more of the old school approach. I like to, in between sessions, try and get either the iPad or the laptop out and type the notes in there and keep kind of a running log of different things that have taken place. I can certainly appreciate that someone would love to pull herself out and talk to text, but I think for me, personal preference, I appreciate just being able to hop in there and type in the notes and keep a running log going, and it's provided. I think the ease of being able to just jump in and out, go from player to player, and do that at a rapid pace, and then it just saves right away is a really nice feature.
I know one of the things that I learned as the director from year one of using TeamGenius and just doing a more formal evaluation, we used to name 2 strengths and 2 areas needed for improvement. We used to do that, and I think that can still have a place. But I learned that getting the coaches all on the same page or as close to the same page, what does a 6 look like? If the kid is a 6 in responsibility, what does that look like? If a kid is a 3 in technical, what does that look like? And so I know I spent some time over the summer coming up with an ODP developmental plan for Indiana. And we talked about what are the areas that we want our 05 to 07 players to be successful at or to be able to do. Do you feel that that developmental plan, has that helped kind of guide your planning for the year? And then does that in any way help with the evaluations?
I think, when we talk about what is the direction of the program, what are we trying to impress upon the student athletes, I think we always try and preface training sessions with them that obviously we're going to try and impart as much education on them as possible because they're there to learn and they're there to improve as players. But there's also a bit of showcase that goes into it. We want them to live on that line of, being selfish and still making the right soccer decision. So when you're talking about, what is some of the game awareness decision making? Well, in our game, if you're 1v1, do you have the mindset and the mentality to look to get after it and try and shine in the moment? So talk about what does a 6 look like, for a player in terms of game awareness and decision making. Are they putting themselves in position to get on the ball? Are they seeking the ball out? And when they have opportunities to break lines and dribble, are they doing so at rapid pace? If they're closed down and now they don't have a path forward, do they have the ability to pick out one of their teams? And so obviously you can kind of go up and down, the positions on the field and what does each role kind of look like in a 6. But you talk about the responsibility, all of a sudden, do they put themselves on a leadership role? Are they someone that looks to try and pull the group together when times are tough? Because obviously we'll try and them in situations in the training environment that forces them to grow. And so can they be someone that is a leader on the field vocally? And that way, when we put ourselves in friendlies or playing in showcases, do they have that confidence then to lead others? So, obviously, the more that we try and extract from the players, help them grow, will help them achieve their likely goals of playing at the next level. I think the majority of athletes that come and participate in this are going to put themselves, either they're trying to make the varsity team, they're trying to make the varsity team, trying to make the ODP regional team, trying to make the national team. They're probably trying to in college. Everyone has different motivations for what they're doing. So how do we help them get to the next level that they're striving to achieve? And the more that we can push them beyond say a 3 and a responsibility where they come in maybe kind of shy, quiet, or meek, can we try and help grow their confidence so that when they're around their peers, even in an uncomfortable situation where they may not know it, but they're willing to put themselves out there, so they go back into their own environment, they have more confidence with players that they play with on a traditional basis.
And Adam, you mentioned one thing that I like. It's our mission statement that we created over the summer for Indiana ODP was, and I'm paraphrasing here, was just to provide opportunities for each player to achieve his or her highest aspirations. And you alluded to multiple high aspirations for a kid. Do you think an evaluation, no matter if your goal is just to make the JV team as a freshman, or it's to make an ECNL team or a USYS national team, do you think an evaluation helps those players no matter what their aspiration is?
Yeah, I mean, as they are on their soccer journey, I think for them to take the time and the investment to come and participate in ODP, how do I get there? What are the deficiencies, or how do I make my strengths shine even brighter? What are the 1 or 2 things that are going to separate me from others? So how do I make sure that when I go back into my environment, I know that, okay, in the ODP environment, this is something that the coaching staff is seeing. And so this is an area that they're telling me they continue to focus on this, because this strength of yours, your mentality to beat players 1v1, continue to do that. If your strength is winning balls in the air, be the best ball winner in the air that you can be. So that way, then when you go back to your high school environment, your club environment, whatever level it is you're trying to achieve, you can be the best version of yourself in that environment. And hopefully that from one environment to the next, that carries over and allows you, to grow with confidence.
One of the areas that we've also adapted is previous, we would talk often in our world that the highest ranked player, that was a national team player. So if a kid got a 6 in your ranking, that meant they were a national team player. Well, for some coaches, they may not know, what does a 15-year-old boy or girl national team player look like, if they've never been to a training session. So we found that that was hard to put those labels on things. So what we talked about was maybe the highest percentage within your group would be that. Do you find that using a rubric, does that help you define the quality of a player? Have you found that if you were to look at your evaluations, that your top 18 players, let's say, would be the top 18 players that you might pick for an event? Or are there occasions where a kid may not score super well, but they've just got something? What do you think about that?
I think that's the what's the word? I guess the beauty of our sport, where there's so many things that go into making a soccer player, right? Like, you may have 7 fantastic 9s, but you may not be able to take every 9. Or conversely, you may ask those 9s to play a different role because they can help you on the field. So, defining, I think having some perspective in terms of, a 6 in this category compared to a 6 in the next category, there's value in having comparison, but not getting caught up in the comparison game with the student athletes, because they need to make sure that they focus on their growth, and they're not necessarily looking at the next player and think, well, I need to catch them in this area. No, you need to be the best version of yourself in this area. And so, it's not necessarily comparing a center back and a striker in terms of, when you're combining a team, you're trying to find obviously the best makeup of players, but 6s in a couple categories may not be the same for a certain player as 4s or 5s in another category, because they may be a bit more forward thinking, where a center back may be a bit more crunching into a tackle. So I think that it's finding the balance of how do you find players that play together as a group, and bringing out their strengths while at the same time putting them in positions to be successful.
Do you find that on occasion you might have a player who out of 5 of the categories does really well, but then in one of the categories maybe is a 1 or a 2 or even a 3?
I think, right, like, you can be the most technical player on the field, but if you don't understand where to get the ball, how to assert yourself, that player, that's just a great opportunity for growth. Like, okay, you're doing these other things well. Now, how do we help, put this package together? Because I think as coaches, a lot of times we will be more excited about the things that we can't move the needle on, in terms of, what's their energy on the field, what's their attitude when they give the ball away, are they the first one to win it back? And so the ways that they can influence the match within their own control, compared to, yes, as a coach, we don't move the needle technically and tactically, but you don't have the industriousness when you're on the field, then it doesn't, then your ability to do core words doesn't translate into a match setting.
So for me in Indiana, I like us using an evaluation system. I think it provides feedback to players and families as well. Adam, do you think this is something we should continue with? Are you happy with the setup? Do you like just the one evaluation per year? Just any thoughts on us keeping to move forward with Indiana ODP?
Yeah, I think that the for the growth of the student athlete, right? To be able to see how they've grown over a year-to-year basis, from not the 9-month phase, but a lot of times many of these players will start at a young age and continue to advance through different age groups. And so for them to be able to have something they can refer back to that, hey, when I was a 7-year-old, this is what some of the coaches are seeing. And now as a 10-year-old, I've been able to grow within those, key indicators. And some of them I've grown in leaps and bounds. Others I've continued to steadily grow. And at the age of 15, I've been able to get even higher in terms of responsibility or gain tactical awareness. And so having a reference and being able to take back into their own environment, say this is what they've noticed over the last 9 months. I'd like to be a better ball striker. I'd like to have a better mentality in 1v1 situations. I'd like to, how can I become a better 1v1 defender? Whatever it is. Now, as an athlete, as a parent, they can sit down and have conversations with each other. They can have a circle back with our staff and take it to their club coach, their high school coach. And now they've got, concrete, things that aren't lost in translation. Well, I think this is what coach said, or I think this is what they saw. No, they actually have now a hard copy ability of this is what's been evaluated over the year-long process and how they see me moving forward, both in this group and in my own environment.
So again, for Indiana ODP, just a quick wrap up, we use a 6-point rubric. We use the key qualities of a U.S. soccer player. We have our age group coordinators, head coaches evaluate the field players. And then we have our goalkeeper director evaluate the goalkeepers with input from the head coaches of the various age groups. We do one evaluation that is sent out to the players middle of July, but coaches have an opportunity throughout the entire year, whether it's the August for our elementary and middle school age kids or late October, early November for our high school age kids. But they have quite a long time to give a proper evaluation to a player based on a year-long performance or almost a year-long performance. We also use the rubric. We've recreated the rubric into a hard copy. So we use that for tryout player purposes to offer feedback to our players who either get an invite into the pool or our players who don't get an invite into the pool. We've had positive feedback from families that enjoy the comments that coaches make. And so one thing I've done this year is I've asked each coach, they should have a comment in all 6 of the categories that they're evaluating their players in. We enjoy it. We think the families like it. We know the players like getting feedback. They may not always agree with it, but it's important to be evaluated. And then it also offers the opportunity for the players then to reach out to the coach. And I said players to reach out to the coach for maybe some more specifics about why they were a 3 or a 4 in this category. Or they may not recall a situation that you as a coach recall, and you can properly offer them that feedback again. I think for Indiana, we'll continue with our evaluations and with the ease of these and the support that we get from TeamGenius, we'll continue to use TeamGenius as our platform to provide our players those evaluations. Adam, thanks for joining me today and kind of going through some stuff. I really appreciate you taking some time away. And again, Adam Clayman, our 05 to 07 girls age group coordinator / head coach, also assistant at Indiana State Women. And I am Todd Sheely, the ODP director for the state of Indiana.